Good evening, Blues. It's the Everton v Forest preview, and I have a very special guest joining me today. It's my good friend Janusz. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I feel honoured to be called a very special guest. Thank you.
Yeah,
Feeling humbled.
it's a hard job following Forest, isn't it? And with the ups and downs that you've had over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult job for best part of 23 years, going back to the 90s. But we've had a bit of joy over the past couple of years. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. So yeah, it's good. It's good to be back. I think is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah, you're certainly picking up a bit of form now, heading into the fixture against Everton. It's one of two games that Everton play Forest this month. In fact, it's an action-packed fixture list for you. I think 9 games this month. Do you like this time of year? Is it time to spend watching football? Are you finding it's just like it's literally coming off one game and then you're getting ready for the next?
Yeah, I love it typically. I don't know if you watched the Forest Wolves game last night, which was awful, was terrible. So I do typically like this time of year, but I think as being in Europe is taking its toll. We played last night, Sunday, Thursday. A lot of players played, all 3 games. And my God, that was a dismal game to watch last night. So yes, I normally love this time of year, but we've got a lot of injuries. Playing a lot of matches in quick successions, taking its toll, I think. So I'm hopeful, but equally in equal amounts, a bit terrified, I think, of because we've got a long injury list, which I'm sure we'll get into. But
Yeah, we'll get into that.
yeah,
I know
we could.
it's very much a difficult time when you're playing that many games in Europe, on top of all of the games that you've got in the league, especially if you haven't picked up the right results, because then there's a need to put out the best side. But I'm sure that it's going to be an entertaining clash. Of course, it's a 3:00 kickoff. It's on Saturday the 6th, which, if you're watching this on Thursday night live with us now, means that it's not too long to kick off. But we've only just recovered from Everton's victory down at Bournemouth. Janusz, it was just our first win ever at Bournemouth. So we don't really do that much down there, and we managed to scrape 3 points with a late winner from Jack Grealish. It was a deflected shot, but it really meant that Everton went home. It's a long journey, as you know, late at night back to Liverpool, with all 3 points. So I think form-wise, we're in decent form going into this. I've just put it up there actually. But Forest, yeah, they're looking on the up. Yeah.
We've got the same form. I put a message out on our WhatsApp group actually saying I was going to be in the podcast. What do you want me to? Anything you want me to say? And somebody pointed out that we've got exactly the same form going into this game. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'm glad it's not just us that can't beat Bournemouth. Actually, we've got a terrible record against them as well. So it's glad to hear it's not just us.
Hi, Mr. Blue Skies. I think people are joining us. They maybe had their tea, just about recovering from all of the fixtures that were happening yesterday. And Forest played on Wednesday. Yesterday, right? I told you, it's funny about it. So Forest only just played. We're doing this preview and the match is in 2 days. So Everton have had an extra 24 hours to recover. They only play 6 games this month, 2 against Forest, of course. Forest play 9. How much does all that matter when you're a side like Forest, and you probably don't necessarily want that many games in a month?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm nervous. It's a lot of games. It's a lot of games, short period of time. There's a few games in Europe as well to contend with. So there's a bit of flying and traveling. Got a lot of injuries, so it's a bit too packed for my liking.
Yeah, of course. The big headline for me is that Dyche is back. Not in a blue shirt, of course. From the minute he arrived at Goodison Park, he instilled a work ethic that wasn't there prior to his arrival. Everton had gone through so many different managers. Dyche came in, and love him or loathe him, he did steady the ship, and players' fitness improved. It was quite a dramatic thing that we saw in terms of our fitness levels. But ultimately, he got to the stage where I think he'd taken Everton as far as he could. Coming into Forest, it was obviously a bit of a head turner for Everton fans to see that he'd gone to a side that had been really flying high recently. What was your reaction when he got the appointment?
Probably relief, actually. I think he joined at the right time. So coming in after Ange, I think if he'd have come in post Nuno before Ange, I think there'd have been a little bit of negativity. Probably, I think we have delusions of grandeur and perhaps think that we should be getting a better manager. But Ange was so disastrous for us that getting Dyche back in, and he did all the right stuff. He came into the first press conference and talked about his time at the club and playing with Cloughy, and he brings back Stone and Wone, who were two kind of club legends, and said all that in the press conference. So kind of won a lot of fans over. So he's joined at the right time. I think right time for him, for the fans to get back on board with him. And to be honest, listening to him talk and seeing the kind of football that he plays, I think he's good for our team. I think we've got a decent team. We can play on the break, and looking at his style, he kind of just looks to cause a bit of chaos and knock balls into the channels and use pace and just let the players play. Actually, he's tight at the back, so I think we've got a good team for his style. So at the moment, we've won, I think, 3 out of the last 4. Love, I think. I'm interested to know what you think. Looking back on Dyche's legacy at Everton, how's he seen there?
It was very mixed, if I'm honest. We had a lot of angry fans on this channel regularly after fixtures. Really? But I think he needed to be given a lot of credit for the fact that he picked up so much of a mess from managers before and did a very good job with the limited resources he had. And remember, this was sort of, the acquisition and the transition to Hill Dickinson. That was, that this has all come afterwards. Many fans wanted him gone before because, they wanted better. But the more pragmatic supporters saw him as actually being able to keep Everton in the league, and they didn't see they didn't see what Moyes has been able to do. All right, Moyes has spent money and brought in players, but they didn't think anyone could really improve upon the squad that it was. It's been quite a big turnaround in terms of Everton have cleared out a lot of players and brought lots of players in. They've got a new manager and changed the stadium. So we've basically had a lot of changes all at once. Of course, new ownership as well. I don't know whether you know about Dan, and he owns Dell and all of that. There's a connection with Roma. So back office, Everton have had a massive clear out. The team itself has also had a clear out. Dyche was good at the time because he kept us in the league, and that's what he was brought to do. But Everton fans demand better than that. I'm wearing this shirt from the Lineker era. In '86, he scored 30 goals. We were on the back of league titles and so on. So it's all about making sure that we live up to the reputation, and we've got one of the best fan bases, a bit like Forest, one of the best fan bases that there is. And we want the very best. Nil satis nisi optimum is the Everton slogan, and of course that is nothing but the best will do. But sometimes with some of these managers we've had, it's been more like nothing but the worst we'll get. But of course, we'll see what happens and who has the last laugh. But I'm sure that most Everton fans will give Dyche a good reception because really he didn't do anything wrong. It's just that he got to the point where I think we were getting. Football's a cruel game. At some point, all managers go. Although Moyes wasn't sacked from Everton, he left for Man United, so that's quite an interesting one. But Moyes has come in, and more into the point is Moyes at Everton Mark II, it's like Iron Man, has more up his sleeve. He has a lot more armory. He's more tactically astute. He's managed around the block. He knows how to get the best out of players, and he knows how to play players like Grealish and just send them out on the pitch and put an arm around them and do things with them. So I think we've seen a big improvement under Moyes. I don't think it's a manager bounce because it's gone on too long. Only to Arsenal, Everton have collected the most away points since Moyes was appointed. So away from home, form's been really good. At home, we lost to Newcastle the last home game, and I was at that game. As you know, I've got season ticket, but I won't be at this one, unfortunately. But the 4-1 defeat at home to Newcastle was quite toxic because many fans, probably about 40% of all the fans, left the Hill Dickinson Stadium at halftime. And by 60 minutes, we were 4-0 down. Yes, we did then have a disallowed goal and score, but that left a lot of question marks over whether Everton have fallen back into old ways. Well, we saw on on Tuesday night that Everton see that game as a bit of a blip. So that puts you in the picture, I suppose, of where we are. Going into this, Forest and Everton, 2 old clubs, of course, played each other lots of times. That's why I'm wearing my Heritage top. 134 to be precise. Everton, 58 wins, 4. So it's not too far off. But of course, this will be your first trip to the Hill Dickinson. It's a lovely little stadium. I don't know whether you've seen it on TV, but what do you think of it so far? Have you managed to catch an Everton game?
I have, yeah. I think it looks pretty great. I really like it. I think the outside view is looks like a good stadium, good atmosphere. As a club that's trying to redevelop their stadium. I think we first put the plans in 2017 to redevelop ours, and now the 8th iteration of the plans have got in. I look with more than a hint of jealousy at you guys actually getting it done and over the line. So, looking forward to it.
Well, considerable debt and considerable investment. And also Everton themselves, I think since about 2003, 2004, we've been really trying to relocate everywhere. And there were failed attempts. And this whole thing was easier said than done. But it was really emotional when we left Goodison. And it's still a big adjustment. Match day routines are still being settled. So Everton haven't quite settled in. And in fact, I think the game against Arsenal, which is the one after this, is another big game for Everton. On the 20th of December will be the first one when Everton's fan group, the 1878s, get all the flags and everything together. So it's almost half a season just to kind of get embedded into the stadium. But it's really loud. It's definitely loud. And I don't know, we've seen that they've got like decibel readings of how loud it is. So when Everton do score and when they do play well, it's very, very impressive. But of course, we don't know, and it's going to be a tight game. So I guess moving on to how we might line up, just to kind of let everyone know. Obviously, Seamus Coleman was taken off against Newcastle very early in the game, so he's injured, and that means that we need to really solve that right back puzzle. Everton have tried O'Brien. They've also tried Garner at right back. Basically, depends on the opposition, depends on the numbers, but we're very short in midfield. Jared Branthwaite's still out. So it's unfortunate because he's played so well in the past, and Everton have done really well to keep hold of him. Great talent, really good prospects. And they also acquired a German midfielder, Merlin Roll, who has come on a couple of times, looked quite decent actually, but he's got a hernia injury. Now, from what I can see, Forest have also got their injury problems as well. Are you familiar with what's going on out there?
Yeah, I've just made a note of our injuries actually before coming on here, so I'm going to get our excuses in quickly for what's coming. But I was writing the names down. We've got Olorida out, Murillo out, Chris Wood out still, Delane Bakwa, who's a new signing in the summer, and Douglas Luiz out as the kind of the big names. I'm still happy with the first 11 that we'll put out, and I think Dyche has been pretty consistent so far. Although he gave Amari Hutchinson his first start last night against Wolves, fans have been clambering for him to start. He's come on as a sub recently and had an impact instantly. So he got his first start last night. But I feel okay with our first 11, but the depth is not quite there. Murillo being out's a biggie. We play Morata at the back instead of Murillo, and he's got some very, very costly mistakes in him. He's a little bit slow on the ball. He's nowhere near as quick, doesn't read the game as well as Murillo, and he hasn't got that kind of range of passing. So under pressure, I worry there. And at fullback, we've got Savona, who's a young lad that we brought over from Italy in the summer, and he's pretty good going forward, but defensively, he's no Nico Williams or Olorina. So fullback and centre back are the two kind of weaknesses in the back line.
Yeah, I've just put up the lineup against Wolves, which was actually only on the 3rd of December. It's mad. But what do you think is going to be the tactics for this game for Dyche? Is he going to come here and try and basically make Forest really hard to beat and set behind the ball, or do you think he's going to try and take the game to us and try and prove a point?
I think we're going to sit back. We looked so knackered, I think, last night. that we would. I mean, Wolves were awful. I mean, I've not seen a team so bad in the Premier League for a long time. But the old cliche,
Really?
we're kind of brought down to their level. It reminded me of our League One games, that match last night. Watching a couple of the Forest podcasts last night, and there was very few positives other than Hutchinson got an assist and got his first start, and Jesus, our centre forward, got his first goal. I mean, it was awful. So again, playing another game in quick succession, I can't see Dyche doing anything other than sitting back and hitting you on the break, or just long channel balls, I think, and then getting some crosses into the box seems to be the way that we're playing at the moment. I can't see us bringing the game to you. I just think we haven't got the energy in our legs. We've got another European game next week against Utrecht as well, which is going to be mindful of. So there's going to be a few subs on 60 minutes to keep the players rotated. So having said all of that, I don't know what you think your predictions are, but I still think it's a toss of the coin. I think it's a 50-50 personally. Maybe you've got the slight edge.
Yeah, we'll come to predictions in a minute. And I think, it's one of those games where football isn't played on paper, but certainly from a kind of a neutral point of view, you would say, well, that might look like a draw, just because I think that you've mirrored, the identical mirroring of form. Obviously, both sides winning 1-0, both sides losing, and then 2 wins before that. Everton actually did really well. They beat Man United away before that Newcastle game, and also Fulham at home. So before that, we'd really struggled, but we were sort of 3 wins from 4 going quite well. Now, your win against Liverpool, because of the way that I can't help but say this every time we come on at the moment, because of the way that the Red side and Merseyside are playing, and there are other words that my co-hosts use, that 3-0 win at their place, how much of a result was that?
Oh, it's unbelievable. And that's one of the results, I think one of our favourite results since we've come up. We've had some big results, but that was particularly joyous. Again, so Dyche so early on into his tenure, the way we played, the goals we got, everybody played well. I think we deserved the win. Everyone was on a high after that. So I'm glad I could be in a podcast where we can both celebrate it.
Yeah, I know. It's a very unusual situation, but certainly, yeah. So you got this game on the 11th of December. That's your next game, is it, after the Everton game? Of course, yes, that's a Thursday, so it's only a few days to prepare. But you don't have a position really to kind of rotate the squad because, as you said, it's quite threadbare, and you've got to put out your best team. So I guess the assessment might be when Everton play at Forest at the end of this month, a completely different setup, and we'll all be fatigued from too much football. Only kidding. We can't have too much of that.
Possibly. So I think what he did, I went to the Malmo game last week and we put the kids on the bench. Malmo were awful. Like they were like a Conference League team. Like we won that game at a canter. There was no atmosphere. It was, we barely, got out of 5th gear for that one. So we're definitely prioritising the Premier League, probably because of the position that we're in. So I can see us doing the same next week against Utrecht. He'll put out a squad, put the kids in, hopefully get a bit of a result. And then the news is that some of the players are coming back. They're back on the training ground. I think Douglas Luiz possibly and Aina are back. So I think come the second game in December, you might see a bit of a different squad by that point, just because we've got players coming back from injury.
Yeah, I think that could be the case. And I'd like to say that Everton have got players back from injury, but I very much doubt that will be the case for us. In fact, we've got more players out. And the reason is, of course, the African Cup of Nations is coming up. And that means the likes of Ghana, who's already Ghana Gay, who managed to get sent off for, don't know whether you saw it, basically having a go at Michael Keane. The whole thing's bizarre. I say it's Everton that. It couldn't even write this sort of stuff. Trying to explain
what's the fans' take on that whole situation? How the fans reacted to that?
I think because we won the game, I think there was generally a focus on the fact that we this sort of like hallmark win, the second win against Man United in like 30 years at Old Trafford. And I think people realised that it was a bit of a rush of blood and it was out of character. But at the time, of course, players were just ballistic. We didn't know the outcome of the result or anything like that. What happened, obviously, is, as you see this in many games, is as a team goes down to 10 men, it sort of galvanizes the team, makes them work 120% harder than they were, and they kind of more than make up for the extra man. And Man United were exposed tactically that game as well. They didn't manage to pull Everton around. Maybe that was Moyes. Another point to prove, of course, because he left Man United. But, Garner, Gay, so out of character. And if you're going to pick two players to have a bust up, you don't expect it to be Michael Keane, who was left out of the game due to injury, I believe, against Bournemouth, and Idrissa Gana Gueye, who has been very, very reliable in both spells. And remember, this is a midfielder who played behind Messi at PSG. It's just like, this is a guy who's like the professional of professionals. But clearly now he's got a bit of a mark against his name. So I think it's a bit like being naughty in class, and it's happened once in your school career and you've got detention. I think you move on. But we won't be seeing him now until after the African Cup of Nations, which means, of course, Everton will also lose another key player, and Dye, who's been absolutely fantastic for much of the season. Hasn't been so great in the last couple of games by his high standards, but it's okay from our point of view because we have creative midfield. We have a team that are no longer that boring paint drying side to watch that we saw, and actually can express themselves creatively in the play. The problem from Everton's point of view is that we don't really have a prolific striker. I mean, I can't even really use that word, can I? Because I think we're at the moment exchanging Barry, a Frenchman who's come in with lots of promise, but he's not really. I think he's hit the target once in the league this year. Tieno Barry. He's a striker we've been put in for, I think, 28 million pounds, brought in for the future, and he's been kind of in the side for the last 3-4 games. Before that, Beto, a man that Dyche just didn't give him a game, had really had a run in the side, and neither of them have really hit the net. Beto probably a little bit more polished, but Thierry Barry has won some plaudits from his ability to hold up the ball and to run the channels and things like that. But we've got to this stage where amongst Everton's fan base, we're almost thinking now, should we just play a false nine? Because we have we have some good talent on the bench. Charlie Alcaraz, who's going to come on, probably going to play in this game. And we do have options, but we don't really have them up front. And so whilst it'd be great to buy a new striker in the window, you know how hard it is to recruit in January. So I think one selection headache might be, and if it is a headache, Moyes might bring in Beto for Barry. Probably has nothing to do with the fact that Dyche didn't like him as a player. But when Dyche did leave Everton, Beto was put in the side and scored loads of goals at the end of last season. So Beto may well get the nod, but it's only because Barry looks tired. He's played on Tuesday, and it's just not happening for him for whatever reason. So yeah, that's our big Achilles heel. If we could point to really one problem area, it's not discipline. It's very much about having someone up top. We haven't really replaced Lukaku since, Lukaku, and that's how it is. And it's really hard to get a Lukaku. So we just haven't got anyone who wants to put the ball in the onion bag. So we'll have to try and find goals from midfield, and I think Everton have done well at that, but we're just not scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, I mean, you look sharp. I mean, actually, I say this, I keep bringing Everton players into my FPL team, and I keep getting them too late, and they stop scoring. So I've had Grealish, I've had Dewsbury Hall, I've had Endo, and I keep getting too late, and then they stop. But you have got the capability of kind of slicing teams apart when it all gels together. It's interesting what you say about Barry. I heard him come on the other day, and the commentators were saying that the fans are behind him, like he's getting cheered off or standing ovation as he goes off because of his kind of work ethic and holding the ball up. But it just doesn't sound like he's putting it in the back of the net.
Yeah, it's frustrating because you do know that. Well, we all know this. It's a bit like lots of walks of life. Confidence is very much a huge factor when you're going out on the pitch. And if you think you're going to score, you probably will. He's getting into some places now where you expect him to score, and he had a big chance against Bournemouth towards the end. Sometimes they put it on the 3-minute highlights, which is about all I would probably watch. But yeah, literally, it's just not happening. And I've seen this with other players at other clubs. I think once he scores his first goal, it will make a difference. He did score against Newcastle, but it was a VAR, which let's not get started down the VAR route, because these decisions in the ground are just so painful, aren't they?
Oh, Jesus, who scored for us last night, I think he's put the ball. I think that was his third goal he scored in the Premier League. His previous two have been chalked off for VAR, and bless the kid for carrying on going. But it's just soul destroying. I was in the ground for one of them, and it's horrible, isn't it? You cheer, and then you go, oh, hang on a minute, wait, let's wait 6 minutes and see if we're actually going to be allowed to celebrate this goal properly. But
yeah, 6 minutes. It wasn't that long, surely.
Ish, yeah, I think so. It's it should have been semi-automated. It wasn't, and they get the lines out or whatever they do these days. And anyway, it is what it is. That's where we are.
You can see the fans here; they want to keep Barry in.
Yeah,
I think that's more of the question of Beto than Barry. I think, because ideally you want to rest a player. But yeah, the VAR thing, it's just. I think we should have the artificial intelligence to just not need this, but it's just not being embedded. And they like to referee it down in Uxbridge, right? So I don't know. We joke here about Liverpool, but obviously, what goes around has started to come around now. Winning's a habit, scoring's a habit, and so is losing. So yeah. And Everton, after this one, we've got Chelsea away, a match I'm going to, and that's going to be another tough game. And I think that they'll be angry after losing to Leeds. But this is just the month where maybe the league will start shaking out, because I've looked at the table, and actually Forest Everton's not really a big gap. It's a few points. I think you're on 14, Everton on 21. The league is so condensed. I've never seen it so squashed in going into December.
It feels like a big gap when you're looking upwards. It definitely feels, looking upwards from where we are, it feels like a long way.
Maybe. But look, you're in much better spirits than it was at the start of the season. And of course, there's every chance that going into this, that it's a competitive game. It sounds like it can only get better, because it sounded like a really boring game against Wolves. So I guess this brings us onto the kind of elephant in the room, your prediction. I'm going to put you on the spot. Your head and your heart. You can give two if you want. What does your head say? And what does your heart say? Or you can just give me one, whichever.
So on paper, it's 50-50. It's a toss of the coin. I think it can go either way. So on paper, it's a draw. I get chastised. I run the supporters club, the Forest Supporters Club down in the southwest, and we do a weekly prediction. And if ever I say that Forest are going to lose or draw, I get chastised immediately for being negative. So I'm not sure I can come here on air and say that we're going to lose. So I think on paper it's a 50-50, but no, I think I'm going to put us down for the win just because I have to. And Dyche has got us playing, so I'm going to what's the cop out score? 2-1 Forest. I'm going to go for
2-1 to Forest. There you have it on Follow Everton. We have the audacity of a Forest fan.
I know.
Come on.
Don't shoot me.
But wind us up anymore.
I'm going to get more abuse off my lot if I go back and I say that I've put us down for Forest to lose. So that's the only reason.
Well, we're winding up, of course. Otherwise, we'll be. Yeah. So basically, because we both work in technology and AI, I thought I'll ask the supercomputer and I'll find out what the chances are and look at the statistics. Of course, machine learning is all the rage at the moment, and basically they think those are going to be a home win. So on that back, I'm going to say 2-1 to Everton, and just and mirror you. And I think it will be a good game. It will be an interesting game. Both sides will score. Can't see Everton keeping a clean sheet after what happened with Newcastle. So there you have it. We have various other comments in. Of course, Follow Everton will be with you before and after the whistle. We do love it when you tell your friends, the milkman, the postman, everyone you know about our channel. Helps us to grow. And from Janusz, from me, I suppose, it's just to say thanks for your company this evening. And I'm allowed to say it, up the Toffees.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks for having me.